Now, let me be blunt here. That's what I always am, but we need to make sure that the justified retribution campaign led by Israel against Hamas does not turn into the US being thrown into another forever war, this time with Iran.
It's not every day that you hear Laura Ingraham act as a voice of reason, a sentence I could honestly say I never imagined I would hear come out of my own mouth. But apparently, yesterday was that day, because on last night's episode of the Ingraham Angle, she spoke out against the frenzied warmongering that we're seeing in the right wing, as well as from some centrist Democrats, as the war in occupied Palestine is supposedly teetering on the edge of a broader regional conflict. Now, specifically, Ingraham was calling out the following statements from Senator Lindsey Graham, and let's all watch this pathetic war hawk salivate at the thought of even more death and destruction.
I would bomb Iran's oil infrastructure. The money financing terrorism comes from Iran.
You're saying that you would want the United States and Israel to bomb Iran, even in the absence of direct evidence?
Yes, I would do a joint military operation. I tell the Iranians today, if the war escalates, you will pay a price. It is now time to dismantle the financing system of terrorism. I don't want to reward them, I want to punish them.
Senator Graham has also said that this is a holy war, Senator Hagerty. I mean, I think when I start hearing that, I get concerned.
And we'll get into what Senator Hagerty had to say in response in a second. But Cenk, first I want to talk about that you and I discussed on the show on Monday these opportunistic war hawks demanding war with Iran in the face of little to no evidence they had anything to do with the Hamas attack on Israeli civilians. In fact, we cited one source from the Wall Street Journal that put together apparent evidence, and now it's been found out that that reporter has a history and has lost jobs as a journalist for fabricating evidence, and the Wall Street Journal itself has walked back that, which was the only report that definitively tied Iran to the Hamas attack. But that's not going to stop Lindsey Graham, right? That's not going to stop these people who stand to gain a lot, financially, politically, by demanding more disgusting brutality.
Yeah, so guys, there's concerns about a wider war here. We're going to discuss that later in the show. And Hezbollah has attacked from the north into Israel, and Israel's of course attacked back in. And so you've got Lebanon, you've got Gaza, but these guys, they can, as they showed earlier in the week, they could do significant damage if they get inside Israel, but significant damage as in losing, around 1,000 civilians. Some of the people that were killed were soldiers, 1,300 overall, right?
Yeah.
But they cannot win a war against Israel. That's preposterous. There is no war here. So Israel will obliterate anyone who attacks them. And we just showed you earlier in the show the obliteration of Gaza. It's like saying Uruguay is a real danger to America, and we must just absolutely destroy everything in our path. That's crazy talk. So, but you can have a real war if you drag Iran into it. Iran's 4 times the size of Iraq. Iran has a real military. Why are we going to go and endanger Israel by dragging them into a war with a giant country like Iran? That doesn't make any sense. That lunatic Netanyahu has been saying that all this time. Why? Because he would personally gain from it. And he has shown now a number of times he could care less about Israeli civilians. But yes, politically, you go more towards right-wingers when there's war. And he thinks I have these corruption charges. I didn't do any intelligence to catch Hamas doing this. And he's been agitating for a war with Iran for a long time. Nothing would endanger it, like, in terms of a core existential threat to Israel, the only thing that I could possibly imagine is needlessly starting a war with Iran.
Yeah.
Because that could spiral out of control. Because it could be not just Iran, but if you start a war with a giant nation like that, it embarrasses the other Muslim nations who sit by and watch Muslims get massacred, which is what's going to happen. Israel's going to start it with a giant lead, right? And then when the West joins in and they see no one likes the government of Iran. The Sunni Muslims hate the government of Iran, which is Shia. I know it's hard for people to understand if you're not familiar with it. But Iran has almost no allies. Yes, they have Russia that they're still hanging on to. But Russia's now isolated. The only way to get them allies is by attacking them. It is maniacal to the extreme degree, and hence Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is one of the worst warmongers of my lifetime. He's one of the most, even though he's a sniveling little coward who likes to lick the boots of his masters, okay? But his masters are not just Donald Trump. They're also his donors, which are defense contractors and oil companies. The minute you drop the first bomb in Iran, gas prices will be double what they are now. And then Lindsey Graham will go, oh, did my benefactors make trillions of dollars while you all got murdered? Oh, golly gee, I guess that was another mistake, just like we did in Iraq. Lindsey Graham's one of the worst human beings on earth, and we should go nowhere near this insanity of attacking Iran, especially when there's no evidence, just like Iraq. Lunatics, total, utter lunatics.
Netanyahu and the right-wing Israeli government does have a lot of interest in the United States getting into something with Iran so we can do their dirty work for them. And I also think it's worth noting that the Chinese, though they're certainly no saints on many levels, did broker a peace agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia. The Chinese did that. And the Chinese have also offered to host peace talks between the Ukrainians and Russians and so on. Chinese have their own interests. That doesn't make them evil, but at least there's multilateralism occurring there. I also think it's worth noting that Israel has carried out extraterritorial attacks systematically over the years in places like Syria and Iran, killed multiple Iranian nuclear scientists, and conducted bombings, which hasn't been reported very widely, certainly not by mainstream media, in Syria just in the last couple of days. The airport in Damascus, Aleppo, and so on, right? So these are over Israeli borders attacks committed by Israel. But I think this story gets me to like the biggest question, which is where is the anti-war movement? And why are some sort of apparitions of the anti-war movement more visible in certain senses by the Laura Ingrams or the isolationists who actually in certain ways promote more civil war and xenophobia within our country? And why have so-called liberals, why do they have no pulse for stopping war? Where is the anti-war movement in this country? Is it because of this perversion of the military-industrial complex that not only has power over particularly heinous politicians like Lindsey Graham, but Biden himself and mainstream Democrats?
But there's a very ironic ray of hope here, and it's buried in this story, which is some portion of the right wing have now joined the anti-war movement. So they're a couple of decades late, but we'll take it. There's plenty of room, okay? So to answer Ramesh's question, we all know, and he knows, it's mainstream media. They celebrate war at every turn, and they say, and right now there's like people proposing that anyone who does a protest of the deaths of the Palestinian civilians now should be banned or arrested, etc. So you're not even allowed to speak out in favor of stopping massacres, right? So, and mainstream media always glorifies war and always paints the anti-war movement as if they're fringe radicals. Oh, look at these radicals who don't want to kill people endlessly. That's not a radical position.
Yeah.
That's the human position, unlike the monsters who work in our politics and media in this country. So, but Laura Ingraham isn't going to tell you that she's against starting a war with Iran unless a giant portion of her audience is saying that. So she's trying to get ratings by appealing to them. That is very good news. Now, the right-wing voters, they're often misdirected. And that it doesn't mean that they became massively enlightened and they're right about every issue and they join us in every effort. But we don't need that. Democracy is a messy thing. We don't have to agree on everything. But if you guys are against a war with Iran, which a lot of right-wingers are now, most of the left wing is definitely opposed to a war with Iran. We can unite against the establishment warmongers who think yes, but on the other hand, oil prices are gonna go up and our stock portfolios are gonna look great, right? So no, we fight against those monsters and we can be united in that effort. Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.